Hi, this is the expert. No, I'm not an expert. I can't call myself that. Oh, wait, I don't call myself that. I call myself the PC Expert Amateur. For those of you who are confused, there's a reason the word amateur is at the end. Because although I know more than the average person about IT, about computers, I don't know as much as the experts do. So I'm not at the same level as like Steve over at Gamers Nexus and all of his coworkers, or Linus with his encyclopedic knowledge of things, or a lot of the other guys, Jay at Jay's 2 Cents, and the list just goes on and on and on and on. I'm old, and so I've forgotten some stuff, and I'm learning new things all the time. Like just this morning while I was getting ready for this, I got distracted by a video I saw talking about whales and fans and how to make them faster or more powerful and quieter based on whales. Absolutely fascinating. And whichever manufacturer jumps onto that first and gets it out first, that manufacturer will dominate, because that information, the biomimetics, is potentially going to revolutionize the specifications of fans. So you could take all of these fans and throw them away, yes, even this one, and have better fans. But we'll see when and if the computer fan industry, that is, actually bothers to do that. You know, it's going to take some changes. It's going to take some designing and stuff. And, well, we'll see what happens. But trust me, if you can find the videos about Dr. Frank Fish and his research into that, it's really interesting stuff. Now, what I'm going to do is grab a connection so that I can show you the lighting on my Thermalright S12W. And the W stands for white, and my Noctua NF-A12x25. Yes, the X means by because it's dimensions. And this one doesn't have any lights, so there'll be nothing to show you there. I will also run these fans so you can get an approximation, however crude, through my camera of how loud they are. Now, keep in mind, what you're going to hear through my microphone will not be the same thing as what you'll hear in person. So I will also try to add some commentary about what I'm hearing. My ears aren't the greatest, so I may not pick up on things. I'm also not somebody who's particularly sensitive to fan noise. I routinely, during the summer, have a fan blowing on me all the time because I overheat very easily. But some people I know are very sensitive, such as people on the autistic spectrum tend to be very sensitive to noises, especially because they can't filter anything out. All of the things that we sense all the time and ignore, they don't have that luxury. So let me get this plugged in and we'll see what the lights look like. It's a darn good thing I have over 300 fans. I was able to find another extension, so I'm using 2 extensions. And this is what you get. It's really kind of hard to see the colors on my screen, but I hope you can see them. Let me just turn off this light. Can't do anything about the sun, but hey, I can see the reflection of the lights off of my hand. Let's see if I can turn off that one. That's a little bit better, but I think it's best if I just do like this. You can see that the color is movement is pretty good, pretty smooth. Now, I'm not going to switch to other modes. I just wanted to show you that so you could understand what that looks like. Okay, now it's time to see them in action without the lights. Sorry, trying to keep this simple. So let's first listen to the Noctua. Now, my other fan controller that has the RPM readout on it became unreliable, shall we say. And so I'm no longer using that one. It was discontinued by Akasa, so I suspect they were aware that it was a piece of crap. I only had it for, I don't know, half the year, and it started giving me problems. So we're going to start with the Noctua so you can hear what it sounds like at different speeds. And I'm going to face it sideways because you're not going to have this blowing in your ear, which would cause a lot of strange noises that you will not hear from it when it's in the case. I'm going to have it turned to the side so you can hear what it sounds like. So I'm going to just slowly increase the speed on this, okay? I don't know about you, but for me this is inaudible. I can barely hear it now. Still very quiet. Now I'm starting to hear a little bit of a whine. Kind of a medium tone. It's got louder and higher. Now it's quite noisy. And that's at max RPMs. All right, now let's listen to the Thermalright. Oh, by the way, I've tested a limited number of fans as far as the quality of the bearings. Well, that's the focus anyways. And so far of the, I think it's like 10 fans I've been able to test before my Acosta became unreliable. This one had by far the best bearings in terms of low friction. All right, do the same thing with this one. And it's finally started spinning. Not audible. Still not audible. Now keep in mind this is a much slower fan overall. The Noctua goes up to about 2,000. This one only goes up to about 1,500. I'm starting to hear a low-pitched noise. It just went up a bit, and I can definitely hear the fan now, although it's not loud. Still there, and it's getting the low pitch is still there, and it's getting louder. Fan also is a bit louder. Now it's definitely louder there. And that's at maximum RPMs. That's pretty quiet, but again, this is a much slower fan. It also doesn't have as much push power or static pressure as the Noctua, nor does it have as much airflow, which would be cubic feet per minute, as the Noctua. So those are things. Now what I'm going to do is I don't know if you were able to hear the low-pitched noise from the Thermalright and the high-pitched noise from the Noctua. I'm going to try to ramp them up at as close as I can to the same speed. I'm going to get them facing the same way while I hold it. There we go. Just get them started first. No noise. And give it a bit of a turn. Well, this is turning out to be, even for my big hands, a challenge. And by the way, don't drop your fans. That's not a good thing. Okay, they're both up at maximum RPMs right now. And now I'm going to turn off the thermal right. I'm going to turn it back on. Now I'll turn off the Noctua. All right, now I'm going to turn off the thermal right too. So as you can possibly tell, because this camera doesn't have the greatest microphone in the world. My previous camera was better, but it died because it was a crappy Baville. But yeah, well, I hope what you heard was just how much quieter the thermal right is, and just keep in mind that that is because it is a slower, weaker fan than the Noctua. So, if your focus is quiet fans and you don't mind losing some power and airflow, then this is going to be a good choice. However, you cannot use it on a radiator because it will not push through a radiator enough to make much of a difference. You could probably use it on a heatsink that has enough spacing between the fins, which usually is not a great thing because that means there's less heat dissipation. But yeah, you could use it on intake or exhaust for a case, especially exhaust, and that would be okay. As long as there aren't too many barriers on intake, that'd be fine. So let's take a look at the statistical differences, because at this point I can't give you test results, and so I want you to see statistically which one is better in which way. So I'm going to switch to my screen view now. Okay, so I've put together the data in my spreadsheet here, and we can see the Noctua on top, and then the thermal right fan is next to that. And don't worry about the vendor thing. That's not important for you. So I'll just I'll hide it. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. All right, so the Noctua, of course, has medium and light brown coloration. The thermal right TL S12W is all white. The Noctua, at the time that I purchased it, cost me about $32, whereas the thermal right cost me $14. Thermal right does tend to be a low price leader. They both have the same certifications, CE and ROHS, and they are both made in Taiwan. And they both have the same dimensions, 120 by 120 by 25 millimeters. And as far as the MTBF, or mean time before failure, or MTTF, mean time to failure, those are basically the same thing. The Noctua is claimed to have more than 150,000 hours. And whereas I could not find any data about the thermal right fan. It's an FDB, but it says SFDB, and my theory is that the S stands for sleeve, so maybe they're trying to subtly indicate that it's not a high-quality bearing. But again, I really don't know. I could not find any reliable sources of information as to how long it'll last. The Noctua has a 6-year warranty, whereas the thermal right has 3. Noctua hasn't got ARGBs, as we saw. The Noctua is 200 grams versus 180 for the thermal right, which is probably because the Noctua is made with more durable products, or materials, I should say. The Noctua also has 9 blades, whereas the thermal right has 7. And that's not important. It was when I got to this point, I started having trouble finding information because, again, Thermalright is very stingy, and sometimes Noctua doesn't give all the information that it possibly could. So, yeah, that's how that works out. But if you take a look here, we can see Noctua has a minimum speed of 450 RPMs, whereas its maximum is 2,000. The Thermalright is 1,500. And the variance for both of them is 10 plus or minus 10%. Neither of them directly supports 0 RPM, although when you drop the voltage low enough, they will stop spinning. That's, kind of obvious, but I thought I should point it out just in case. Now, neither of them told me what the minimum airflow, or CFMs, is. The maximum for the A12x25 is 100.2. I'm sorry, 102.1. Sorry, and the TLS12 is 47.6. So less than half the airflow of the A12. And static pressure 2.34 versus 1.31 in millimeters of water. Or millimeters aqua, and that is 100 less, or sorry, 1 less for the TLS12. The fan noise is pretty comparable, I felt. However, in realistic terms, the Noctua was significantly louder than what they give for their specification of 22.6 decibels. And Thermalright was 23.2. I think the 23.2 is accurate for Thermalright. I do not believe that it's accurate for Noctua. I think that it was significantly louder than that, especially because of that high-pitched whine that it has, whereas the Thermalright has a lower one, which tends to not register so much with some people. The Noctua comes with a 20.5 centimeter cable for power, and for Thermalright, it's actually 49.4 centimeters. The Noctua does not offer daisy chain capability, whereas the TLS12 does. And in addition, the cable for the ARGB is 51 centimeters, and it can daisy chain as well. When I'm doing this, I am not counting the length after the first connection point. I start from the beginning of the cable to where the first plug is, and I stop measuring there. So there's an additional distance that I'm not showing here. Then both fans are PWM, and the Thermalright uses a standard ARGB, or the open standard. They're both fluid dynamic bearing, but the Noctua uses their proprietary SSO2, which is a fantastic bearing. And again, the TLS12 uses the SFDB. And then, as far as power usage, electricity usage, they're both rated for 12 volts, of course. Noctua has a minimum of 5. I couldn't get any information about Thermalrights. As far as wattage is concerned, Noctua pulls 1.2 watts, whereas Thermalright only pulls 0.15. A significant difference for people living in areas where electricity is very expensive. And the maximum draw for the Noctua is 1.68. No data for the TLS12. And then both of them have a rated amperage of 0.1, with Noctua having a maximum of 0.14. So these are, as far as amperage is concerned, these are fairly mild, except for when you add in the amperage for the Thermalright's lights, which also were not indicated on their website. Now, they both have on the frame rotation and flow indication, so you know which way you're mounting it, when you're mounting it, whether it's going to be blowing in or out. And for people who want to know which way it's turning. Is it turning clockwise or counterclockwise? The Noctua fan came with 4 screws, whereas the Thermalright apparently was from a bulk pack, so it only came with a plastic bag. It had no screws with it. That's okay, I have lots of screws, but just keep that in mind if you order it from a bulk pack. Neither of them come with radiator screws, although the Noctua does come with rubber pins, as I recall. Let me just double check here. Yes, it does come with 4 NA-AV2 anti-vibration mounts, which are silicone pins. Silicone. Silicone is a much better choice than regular rubber. In addition, the Noctua comes with a rubber gasket that fits on the side of the fan to act as a barrier for the gap between, say, the fan and the case, or the fan and the radiator, or even the fan and the heatsink, although it would be less useful there, but still useful. Now, the Noctua also has corner cushions made of silicone, the Thermal Right. Actually, the Thermal Right does too. And neither of them have cushions right inside of the holes. The Noctua comes with a low noise adapter. Neither of them have a speed switch, which is a fairly uncommon feature. The Noctua comes with a 2-way splitter and has an extension cable of 30 centimeters. Neither of them use Molex extensions or adapters. Neither of them have swappable corners, which, to my knowledge at this point, is unique to the Be Quiet Silent Wings Pro fans. So, those are the statistical differences, some of which are clearly not entirely accurate, especially that decibel rating. So that brings us up to question whether or not the airflow and static pressure are as stated or not. And eventually I will be able to even have a manometer to measure static pressure. At this time, all I can do is indirectly infer through temperature testing what it's going to be like. Now, the Noctua is a really good fan. It's not the best. It's not got the best airflow. It's not got the best static pressure. It's not got the best noise. There are quieter fans. There are stronger fans. There are faster fans. And so, yeah, is it perfect? No. Is it really good? Yes. Is it worth $32? I guess that remains to be seen. If it comes out, I would say if it comes out in the top, I don't know, top 10% of my fans, then yeah, I would say that maybe it would. But it would also depend on factors that I cannot evaluate unless I would tear one apart and do scientific experiments I don't know anything about. So I hope that this has been informative for you. If you have any questions, suggestions, or whatever other comments, please put them down below. And please like, subscribe, and share. And by the way, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.